kidding? Just one shot?
They're not all zombies, Doug. How do you fight this thing?
Maybe we could drown it in A1 sauce.
Well, sometimes that is better. The person you put up there ain't the person that comes back.
It's a dance song to get down with. About 6 feet under. Get there.
Ooh, I love this song.
And now we come to the thrilling final episode of our radio drama.
Hello, and welcome to episode 153 of the Rotten Reviews podcast, but you guys already know that because you clicked on the episode, and I appreciate you very much for doing so. Unless you have it on autoplay, where each episode is saved once it comes out, I appreciate it. And if it's on autosave, then yeah, it's episode 153, and we're watching a movie from 1988 called The Nest that I've never watched before, but I'm kind of interested in watching it now, and it's on Tubi. But before we get into all that fun stuff, so before we get into the episode at hand, I just want to say thank you again for showing up to another episode of the Rotten Reviews podcast. I appreciate it very, very much. It means a lot for you. It means a lot to me for you guys to keep coming back each and every week. And I've seen another jump in the episodes, and I appreciate that so much. It means a lot. And we're gonna hopefully, I say hopefully, have some more extra content. I'm going to be making it this week because I am actually kidless for the week, as she's staying at her grandparents while they're like a stay-home vacation. So hopefully after work I'll have enough energy left to get some extra episodes done throughout the night and get ahead on the episodes for the YouTube channel, because each and every Wednesday we have a new video game episode going up. So I'm doing that, recording that, editing, and all that fun stuff. And then throughout the week we have random art shorts going up, and I'm also doing live streams over on YouTube, and I'm also doing them over on Twitch, and it's just me doing the drawings for the live streams. Because the handy thing is you can use Streamlabs right off your phone, so I just hooked that up in my gooseneck tripod holder above my art desk, and we do the video there that way. And I use my my gaming headset, the mic and everything on that, just Bluetooth right through the phone. So that's just an easy way of doing it, eventually I'll get a nice fancy camera and all that fun stuff set up, but I'm not too worried about that right now. The phone does a decent job. I don't have overlays or anything like that, but that's fine. That's not a big deal. We'll get some live stream for video games set up at some point in time. I just don't know when that's going to be. It's just a hassle, but for right now I can just do it on the phone with the art streams, which a lot of people have been wanting to see art videos, so now they get to see me actually on live stream doing the drawings, usually for Abby's lunch throughout the week. Right now we've been doing the Simpson theme, which I'm having a blast with that. I'm gonna let that run a little bit longer. Usually I just do a theme for the week and then I switch the theme each week, but we're just gonna I've been doing kids from The Simpsons. So I did a couple Millhouses, I think a Martin. I'm doing the Chum Robot because that's just fun to draw, and we'll see what else we do. And then from the live streams I'm going to edit those down into time-lapse videos to upload them with shorts, and then there's extra content all around for everyone. But with that being said, to get the whole boring stuff out of the way, if you guys can go sub to that YouTube channel, I appreciate it. We are almost crouching up on the 600 subs, I think. I didn't double check before this hand. I should, but you know how I am. I don't double check anything. I just, I get going and that's it. But yeah, if you guys can also follow us on all other social medias, there's Instagram, Facebook, Threads. We're on Threads now. I'm not, Threads is just Twitter. I mean X, sorry. It's not called Twitter anymore. It's called X. Will we ever get used to calling it X? Probably not. But I guess Threads is just a better version of that, some people are saying. Or some people are just saying it's already dead. I don't know. I don't really pay that much attention to social media. And that's probably something that's really bad on my part. Because, I have a YouTube channel, I have a podcast, and I have an art business. So I really need to stick to the social media side of things and actually start posting more. Because that would probably help me out a lot, because word of mouth these days doesn't really get far. Did it ever really get far, though? I don't think it really did, but, you know, it is what it is. But yeah, at Typhonstein, all of the links will be down below, as always. But we're going to jump right into the movie at hand today. Like I said, it's The Nest from 1988. It's an hour and 27 minutes, rated R, it's a horror sci-fi movie, and it's on Tubi. And then the description on Tubi is the quiet town of Northport is being overrun by cockroaches, and its sheriff is pinning the blame on the Intech Corporation's genetic experiments. I'm going to try my best to do this podcast all in one sitting. The weather's been really fucking weird here today. At one point it'll be raining, and then it gets really hot and sunny, and then out of nowhere everything just goes dark and gloomy, and there's a thunderstorm. So it's been thundering on and off for like the last 2.5 hours. So hopefully I'll be able to finish this in one sitting and not have to edit it a lot, and you know, come back tomorrow night and finish it off. That's the plan, hopefully. But yeah, I found it interesting. The producer for this film is actually Julie Corman, who is Roger Corman's wife, which I thought was interesting. But the director is Terrence H. Winkless. Yeah, Winkless. Best known for being the writer of The Howling, the original 1981 Howling, and director of White Wolves 2, Legend of the Wild. I don't know what the hell that is. I've never seen that before. But those are what pops up on his known for. The other one is Scorpius Gigantus, which just sounds stupid. But whatever. I'm not going to judge, even though I just did at that very moment. But that's fine. And then the main writer is Robert King, who's best known for doing a lot of TV shows now. He's done 156 episodes of The Good Wife TV show, 37 episodes of Evil, and another 60 episodes of The Good Fight. All shows I have not watched, and I probably won't watch them at any point in time, but that's just me. The tagline for this movie is "The Terror Has Hatched." Very creative. Some did you know trivia. The studio that this film was shot in was plagued with cockroaches for several years after this movie wrapped. So that's just saying that you guys had a very bad problem of keeping the cockroaches under control, unless they just kept multiplying. I'm not sure the reproduction rate of a cockroach, but I'm pretty sure it's probably pretty high. I could be wrong though. Anyways, enough of that though. This movie came out in 1988, so I'm good. Like I say all the other times, it's free on Tubi. Feel free to go watch it on Tubi if you guys haven't seen it. If not, I'm going to be talking about this movie from start to finish. I'm pretty much hitting all the points. So if you don't want to be spoiled on a movie that came out in 88 before I was even freaking born, feel free to pause it now and go watch the movie and then come back and hopefully listen to the podcast, because we need you here. But like I said, there's going to be spoilers, and I don't want to hear any complaint about it, okay? So how about you guys grab some popcorn, sit back, relax. I don't know, maybe you're listening to this at work. Maybe don't grab some popcorn, sit back and relax. Maybe just do your job. Well, whatever you guys are doing, let's just get this movie started.
Presents Saturday Night at the Movies, the television series which each week brings you the finest in recent motion pictures. Tonight,
they've defied evolution for 300 million years. But now, they're changing.
Is it them?
The Nest.
This movie is presented by Concord. I'm not sure that company. Probably should know. But anyways, it jumps right into the title font, The Nest, pop in with some eerie style music. And then we just cut to a lighthouse with the intro credits coming in. And we find out that it's 62 degrees and it's 6:45 in the morning. And then as the intro credits is playing, we zoom in on this house. and we see someone sleeping in a bed face down. And it's got this Lifetime style music playing as we hear some like munching sounds, so I'm not sure if that's supposed to be a cockroach. And then the alarm goes off and the guy finally starts to wake up, and his room's a fucking mess, complete write-off. But, I guess maybe he's a smart person. Apparently smart people have messy areas. And of course, as he's waking up, we find out he's the sheriff, apparently, because he's got a sheriff's shirt on. I don't know, this is supposed to be like Jaws of the cockroaches. Anyways, then he's on the phone to call the Northport police, and he gets ready to drink his coffee that's been sitting there for a while that probably has a cockroach inside of it. But, he gets ready to take a sip of it anyways. We find the guy on the phone is Richard, and he's playing around with his toilet because the toilet keeps running. And then we see there is a cockroach just sitting in his drink, but he doesn't notice it at all. And then we see the camera shot down as his drink as the cockroach starts swimming around his drink. He takes a sip and then spits it right out. He's like, god damn it, goddamn cockroach. And then as he's going out to his truck to get ready, and then we see this guy Homer driving this moped, who then stops at this gas station and drives off to go hunting or something. I'm not really sure what he's going for. Anyways, then he stops at the diner to get a bite to eat, because apparently this gas station is also the main diner, because it looks like everyone in the town is sitting there waiting to get some food or some coffee. And then I guess there's something between Richard the sheriff and the waitress behind the counter, because they kiss, and then she gives him a present of some sunglasses. Anyways, he just stopped there to fill up his thermos with some coffee. We then cut and see him driving down the road along the beach line, and then there's this plane landing in on the waters because it's got the pontoons, which then we see it on land, and the pontoons aren't really there. I guess they're kind of on the side of the wings. I don't know how planes and pontoons work. I don't know. I'm not an expert on this bullshit. And it's a low budget movie by the looks of it. So anyways, the plane lands on the beach, and then this blonde lady comes out of it, who I believe is Elizabeth. And then we see them driving in the car together, and he's like, she says it's been so long. And then they both say how they miss each other. So I'm like, are you guys in a relationship, or what's going on there? And suddenly he's like, so you're sheriff now? He's like, so did your dad retire? He's like, no, he died. And she's like, oh, sorry, I didn't know. And he's like, oh, it's so fine. It's fine. It's been a while. Long time ago. And as they're driving into town, we see this banner going across the road, and it's a festival going on called Fish-A-Whack, whatever the hell that is. Let's just leave it there. But we can definitely tell this is like the Jaws prototype theme of a movie. He drives an SUV truck, and they're on the water and everything. So instead of it being sharks or a shark named Bruce, it's going to be some cockroaches. Hey, so this whole lady is sitting out on the side of the road with in her rocker, and she's complaining about the library because apparently all the bindings of the book are broken in the library, or all the glue's missing. And he's just like, mice, they'll feed it. It's like, not in every single book. Then we see this fancy dapper guy who's talking to someone else about Intech and how they promised him money or a loan a while ago, and that he's going to have to raise his prices because he's not getting his money. And then the old man's like, nah, you're not going to raise your prices. But this fancy guy's like, you got to hurry up because all the tourists are going to be here soon for the festival. So yes, it's calling on Jaws yet again. It's a ripoff, but with cockroaches. And then the old guy's like, you know what? Intech is going to take this island into the 20th century, and I'm not going to let some little nerdy guy hold me back in doing what my dream is of taking this island to the 20th century and making it a hotspot. And we find out that the nerdy guy is talking to the mayor, which is shocking. I'm not going to say it, but you know what it means. Then we see the sheriff dropping the young lady off at her home. He's like, yeah, tell your dad happy birthday. So I guess she's back for his birthday. But I'm assuming she's like the daughter of the mayor, most likely, because we see her walking into this big fancy house. And then, of course, we see the mayor in his office. And shocking. Didn't see that one coming at all, but that's all right. And then I believe her name is Elizabeth, and she comes into her dad's office. She's like, Dad, you look older. It's like, well, it's probably been a while because seeing you were just in the truck with Richard, and you didn't know his dad was dead at all, so God knows how long that's been happening for, or happened to him. So yeah, people age, it is what it is. And then we see Richard outside his truck, and he's talking to his dispatch, and then this weird sound starts coming over the radio, and he shuts the truck door and starts walking around, looking around, as we hear this eerie screeching coming all over the place. He's slowly looks down at the stairway that's leading down to the beach. He's looking all confused, like, what's that? He looks over both railings but can't see anything, so he's like, I guess I'll just walk down the stairs a little bit and explore. Then old man Jake comes out of nowhere and grabs his ankle. He's like, what the hell, Jake? What if I had my gun out? I would have shot you because I'm an officer and I just shoot at the first sight. And Jake gets a big giant laugh, and he's like, Polio's gonna creep up on you there, Richard. And then Richard's on the beach. He's like, Jake, we gotta have a talk. You clearly stole that boat, and you need to take it back, and you need to stop taking other people's properties. And Jake's like, yeah, I'll take it back today. Yeah, I'll definitely take it back today. Don't worry, officer. I'll definitely take it back. And then out of nowhere, Jake's like, you gonna marry my daughter, Richard? It's like, what? What's going on there? And then we find out Elizabeth's mom is passed on since, and she's like, where's mom's shell collection? He's like, after the funeral, I just packed up all her stuff, put it in the basement. I figured it's kind of, a little bit easier for the healing process. And their dad's like, I just don't want to lose you again, Elizabeth. I'm sorry, I'm just trying to heal with the loss of your mother and stuff. And this so-called uplifting music starts to play as they hug. And the next thing you know, we see her in the woods walking around, just exploring, I guess. Then as she's walking through the woods, she comes up on this random camper that's in the woods. And I believe there's a wooden sign outside saying, like, Galaxy Movies. And then out of nowhere, she goes to get a little bit closer, and this German Shepherd on a chain comes up and starts barking at her. She's like, yeah, you know what? I'm actually not curious about that camper at all. And she just takes off walking in the woods. And then we see the dog just laying outside the camper, all bored and stuff. And we hear on the radio that's the dispatcher asking if Richard's gone to Intech yet to investigate. And then the dog wakes up because he hears some sound in the grass. And we can just hear it's like the buzzing of the cockroaches coming towards them. And then we cut and see Elizabeth still exploring some more. And then she comes up to a no trespassing sign on this broken fence. And it says Intech Development. And she's like, since when? This is my island, essentially. Then we cut back and see the dog whimpering a little bit as he's, getting stuck on his chain. And we just see the grass, moving a bit just to insinuate that a bunch of cockroaches are coming towards the dog. Then we cut back to Elizabeth that's at the fence, playing with the broken wood. And then she hears the dog whimpering and she starts to run back towards where the dog was. Then we see Elizabeth running up to the camper with no fear at all, even though this dog tried to bite her or essentially attack her. And then she's following the chain up through the grass. And then we see a dog that's got no fur anymore. And it's just a bloody carcass of just muscle tissue and whatnot. And then Richard comes up and grabs her and he's like, yeah, you go over to the camper. I'll take a look at this. It's like, yeah, dog's dead, clearly dead. You don't have to really look at it. And then we look at the dog again. We see that his ribs are exposed and like all the flesh is gone as well. And I'm like, but 2 seconds ago he just looked really bloody. And then we see Richard talking to the mayor, and he's like, you should probably hold off on that. Shouldn't investigate it much. It's Intech land, so Intech will probably look into it themselves and figure out what happened to the dog. I'm sure it's no big deal. It's just a healthy dog that was, alive 1 minute, and then within like 5 minutes it was, dead and half gone altogether because something ate it. But whatever, it's no big deal, just leave it alone. And then we see Robert and Elizabeth walking around, having a conversation on the property, and she's asking why his old hideout is all boarded off. And he's like, yeah, Intech's building some buildings and stuff out there, and it's not my property anymore, so it's what it is. And we have Richard being depressed because he's like, you know what, Elizabeth, I never knew why you left, because clearly there's a romantic tie between the two. And then she's like, I left because I wanted to get away from my dad. I want to feel like an adult, and I just want to be persons have a new start and whatnot. And then we see old man Jake, I think his name was, at his property in his onesie, walking around with a rifle trying to shoot a rat, and he's missing the rat each time, and he's like shooting various items that he has because he's got a bunch of junk all over the place. And then next thing you know, we see this severed rat falling in front of him, and he's all worried and confused, like, what happened to you? I didn't shoot you. And then the cockroach sounds comes in, and I guess we just assumed that the cockroaches ate half the rat like it was nothing. And he starts freaking out, and then we see, like, from the point of view of the cockroaches moving through his like little junkyard to go attack him. And he pretty much lives in a tent, so he's pretty much screwed. So anyways, he runs back into his little camp area, into his tent, and jumps into his sleeping bag and covers up with his blankie, assuming he's going to be safe. But then we just see him screaming and blood starting to go all over the place, and then his whole forearm just drops to the ground, like severed from his arm. And then we see his forearm getting dragged into the darkness as he's screaming, as we see a shot of the moon. Boy, this movie is fucking silly. Then we see Richard running out of his house in the morning because he hears Homer coming down on his moped, and he's trying to talk to him, and Homer jumps off his moped, and literally we see Richard pushing the moped, and he's like, Homer, I don't have time for your stuff. Can you actually just spray my place so then get rid of the cockroaches? He's like, I can't do it right now. I gotta go spray the cabins and stuff. And then he gives him his old school bug spray machine. He's like, have fun, Sheriff. Talk to you later. And then we cut back and see the diner and people sitting around discussing what happened to the dog and how it was ate down to the bone, essentially. And then we see Richard showing up to the diner, and the waitress isn't too happy because clearly she knows that the mayor's daughter's back in town and that her man had some things to do with her, apparently. And then the cook comes up. He's like, "Hey, Sheriff, I heard Elizabeth's back. How long has it been since you got?" And then the waitress is like, "You know what? Get back and do your job." It's like, "Oh, okay, yeah, a little bit awkward situation right there. That's fine." And then we see another plane landing on the island, and now it's Dr. Morgan Hubbard showing up, and she goes to introduce herself to Mary. It's like, "Oh, no, it's fine. Don't, let's just get down to work, and no silly introductions needed, really, and we'll just get the job done, right?" And then we see the mayor and Hubbard talking about some plans and whatnot, and then Richard shows up and the mayor introduces him, and that's when we find out that Richard just is like a new sheriff. He pretty much just got the job because his dad's dead, so maybe now his dad hasn't been dead for that long. And then we see them going back to the scene where the dog is, and apparently they haven't actually taken the dog from the area. They literally just picked him up, put him on a blue tarp, and wrapped him up in a blue tarp outside the little camper trailer. And Hubbard just comes over and literally rips a piece of the rib cage off, and Richard's like, "You ever have a dog?" He's like, "No, not tonight, actually. Now I do." And then a call comes through on the dispatch radio, and apparently there's an issue at the grocery store with the meat produce. Apparently there's something going on there as well. It was probably just cockroaches eating everything, because they're man-eating radioactive cockroaches by the sound of it. And as soon as Richard shows up outside the market, this blonde girl comes out. It's like, as soon as I got in this morning, they all look like this, and like all the food is gone in the wrapper, and then it's like these little pellets left behind, which I'm assuming is cockroach poop. Looks like, sunflower seeds, but it could be cockroach poop. And while Richard is dealing with the issue at the grocery store, we see the mayor and Hubbard setting up this trap for the cockroaches, I guess. I'm not sure what kind of trap you set up for cockroaches, but whatever, it works. And then she gets ready to set up some bait, and that's when a cat comes out of nowhere and starts meowing. He's got the look in her eye like, cat's definitely gonna be better bait. It's shocking. I was right, because they put the cat in like a glass case and they're just sitting around watching, waiting. It's like, so how much longer till the cockroaches show up? And the mayor's like, "Oh, Jesus Christ, that's the sound of a bunch of cockroaches coming that we can't see, but sure do see the grass moving a little bit." And then Hubbard opens the gate on the glass case for the cat, and then we just hear it screaming, and we see a bloody cat in the cage as these cockroaches are eating it, and they're just standing there watching. And Hubbard's like, "I need a place to work now because these cockroaches are very hungry." And Hubbard's doing like an experiment. She's like, "These creatures are very, very unique. They don't run away from the light, and they collect from the carcass. It's not something I've ever seen before." The mayor's like, "God, can we just get this issue under control, please, before my whole island gets killed?" And then we see Homer at the diner, and he's spraying inside the diner all over the place. Like, "Oh, I hope you clean that stuff off before you start cooking again to eat, because that's not gonna probably taste that well, actually." And then while they're doing the job, Elizabeth walks into the diner, and Homer's looking around like, "Oh shit." And then the waitress lady, I think her name might be Lillian, it's like, "Just finish the job, Homer. Just finish the job, Homer." And then she's pretty much like, "So I see you're back in town, obviously. So you staying long? Or are you just leaving soon? Are you leaving soon? Be good if you leave soon." And then we go back to Hubbard and the mayor looking over the carcass of the cat as she's, looking at these she says, cockroaches that she's very amazed by, and how they're still collecting stuff from the carcass of the cat and pretty much eating it down to the bone. Then she puts her hand inside the container with gloves on, of course, and then she's like, "Oh, it's so amazing," as she's watching as her hand's covered in cockroaches, and then suspense music comes out, and he pulls her hand out of the container, and when he pulls her hand out, the gloves stays in the container kind of thing, and her hand's covered in blood, and she's like, "It's unbelievable." It's like, "Yeah, you just had cockroaches feeding off you, you fucking crazy bitch." Then we cut and see Elizabeth just killing some time, because in the basement, going through a bunch of old boxes and whatnot, and we see the odd cockroach just moving around, and then she pulls out this map, and then next thing we know, we see the no trespassing sign, in tech development sign again, as she's out there walking along this fence line when it's getting close to being nighttime by the looks of it, or maybe it's just really bad lighting on this copy, because once she puts her head closer to the opening of the fence and looks through, it gets fucking brighter for some reason, and we see this other random carcass on the ground. And of course she goes over to the random carcass and starts poking it with a stick, and then looks all around all shocked and confused like, I wonder what would it did this. Probably the same thing that did it to the dog. Just saying, just throwing that out there. Then we see Hubbard. They get like one single cockroach off in his own container, and they start gassing it, and the cockroach just runs around the cage all crazy and whatnot, but it doesn't seem to really be killing it yet. And then they they up the dose of gas, and then it finally looks like it's finally dead on top of this piece of meat that they put in the cage with it, or container. And then she tells the mayor that the amount of gas that she just had to use to kill this one cockroach is enough gas that would be required to kill a single human being. So he's like, oh great, I'm fucked, my whole island's gonna be screwed now. I'm just gonna have to kill everyone off. And he's like, great, I'm gonna have to go evacuate the island. And then she's like, no wait, there's another way, just don't worry about it, just give me 24 hours and we'll get the whole issue solved. He's like, you better not be lying to me, I am serious about this. 24 hours and that's it. Anyways, we see Elizabeth exploring some more, and then she comes to this cave system which says, you know, dangerous, no trespassing, intact development. And apparently this was like maybe his little hideout, like Richard's hideout, but it's got like this big giant wooden fence across the whole opening of it. And she, you know, starts, you know, trying to pull the fence open, but then she finally finds this little crack where she can finally pull a piece of board up and sneak in like they did in like the Goonies or something. Essentially, it's your typical cliche way of getting into a fence. You know, the board just moves up enough that you can squeeze in. And she starts going through this tunnel way, pulls out her trusty flashlight that she's been carrying the whole time. She's like, oh, I guess I should be careful. And that's when she's moving the flashlight along the wall. You can see a heart in spray paint that says Richard and Elizabeth, and she's smiling to get all happy about it. But guess what? There's a bunch of cockroaches in that little cave area as well. Then we see the sheriff pulling over Homer. He's like, what seems to be the problem? As they both go around the truck in different patterns, and they're doing this whole like little comedy scheme. And then he's like, I got something to show you. And he pulls out these pellets and puts it in his hand, and he licks one. He's like, yeah. And Richard's like, you gonna tell me what it is? Homer gives him some fancy name for it. He's like, well, you gonna tell me what that means in English? He's like, cockroach droppings. They're really bigger than they should be, but it's still cockroach droppings. And then over on the radio, the dispatch comes through. She's got some information on Hubbard. We find out she was kicked out of the school that she was going to for some illegal experiments. So we have a Josh ripoff with a little bit of Dr. Herbert West, apparently, by the sounds of it. And as we see the cockroaches slowly moving into the cave system, not really slowly, it looks like they're moving pretty fast. And then Elizabeth starts hearing the sound coming as she's opening up these intake boxes. And it looks like a bunch of different chemical bombs all in there. And then she starts getting spooked out because she hears a bunch of cockroaches coming towards her. So then she starts walking through the cave system backwards with her flashlight, but it doesn't even look like the flashlight's on. And then she bumps into these like sacks that look like they're from Killer Clowns from outer space, but they're not cotton candy sacks. They kind of just look like ball sacks, to be honest with you. And then Richard's like, you know what, I'm going to get a team together and we're going to go through those caves and see what's going on. And the mayor's like, no you're not, you're just going to leave it alone, and we got everything solved, so don't worry about it, okay? So just leave it alone. And then Hubbard goes on about how the genetic, you know, experiments and whatnot will be the future, and there will be a time where, you know, there's no more pesticides needed, and that genetics are going to be so strong. And she's like, it's just a matter of time, and that she's got some experiments that she's doing, and that by this time tomorrow the cockroaches are not going to be an issue anymore. And then Elizabeth's like to her dad, he's like, you know, if you don't think there's anything crazy going on in those caves, maybe we should go take a look at them now. He's like, no, we're not going to go take a look. He's like, well, there's a bunch of weird stuff happening up in those caves, Dad, so we should go take a look at it because something crazy's happening, Dad, and you just don't want to believe it. That's when the mayor then tells Richard to stay out of the cave, and he walks over to the mayor. He's like, you know what, my dad always told me this day was going to come. And that's when he hands in a sheriff's badge, and he's like, yeah, I don't need your horseshit. And then we see the cook Church, apparently is his name, and he's playing with the garbage outside as he's using it as like a basketball to shoot it into the dumpster, because that's just what Church does apparently. Because the lady in the diner is like, you know, Church, stop playing food, you gotta stop doing that. Anyways, then Church jumps into the dumpster to, you know, press down the dumpster, and we can just assume what's going to happen next. While he's inside the dumpster, he gets bit by something, and he reaches down to see what it was, and when he pulls his hand back up, it's just full of a bunch of cockroaches, and he's bleeding all over the place. And then we see him slowly disappearing inside the dumpster as the cockroaches are eating him alive. As the lady, I think her name was Lillian, is inside the diner just sweeping away, just doesn't hear him screaming at all because the radio's on. But at this point in time, she's now there sweeping the front stepway when she sees Richard drive by with Elizabeth in the passenger seat, of course. And we see that at Richard's house now, and apparently Elizabeth wants to take a bath or a shower. She's like, Richard, you got any clothes I can try on? I just don't have any clothes. And he's like, let me see, let me smell these clothes and see if they're clean or not. And then Elizabeth has this like touching moment with Richard because apparently she found a note from her mother, and apparently it was a suicide note, and that apparently by the sounds of it that her dad didn't want to tell everyone the truth because apparently suicide is embarrassment. But I'm assuming he just kept it from her because he didn't want her to know the truth, because maybe he thought what he was telling her was a little bit better than what the truth actually was, which is understandable as a parent, I guess. We see Homer stopping off at Jake's little junkyard hoarding area, and he's calling for Jake as he's got some booze in his hand, and Jake's not calling back at all because, as we remember earlier, Jake got ate alive in his sleeping bag. Homer goes into Jake's little tent area, and he's like, "Oh, you're dead to the world, huh? Asleep?" And he goes to check on him, and that's when he finds out that he's actually really dead because he's ate alive by cockroaches. Homer pulls off Jake's hat because he just thinks he's sleeping underneath the hat. And that's when we see Jake dead, and the cockroaches are feeding off his face. And Homer runs out of there pretty quickly, as a scared goof that he is. Then he runs to this one spot in the junkyard, and there's a bunch of cockroaches. So then he gets scared, and then we just see him running out of the junkyard area, but it doesn't look like he gets back on his bike at all. And then we see the mayor on the phone with the main guy from the Intech. He's like, "You are just trying to control the cockroaches, but we need to actually worry about the long-term things. We need to get everyone off the island so the worst doesn't happen until this cockroach infestation is actually dealt." That's when the mayor's like, "You better take immediate action right now and get this issue solved, because if you do not get this issue solved right now, I'm going to go to New York Times, and there's going to be a lot more issues at hand than just this little experiment at hand." And then we see Richard and Elizabeth in his washroom cuddling and shit, and then they see a cockroach on the toothbrush, and then they see a cockroach on the toilet, and then they take off the bowl of the toilet, and inside the tank that holds all the water, it's just infested with fucking cockroaches. And then they all just run out of the house, and they're like, "I'm done with this place. I'm moving. I'm done. I'm not dealing with this anymore." Then we see that ditzy girl from the grocery store getting ready to carry some food upstairs, and she dips her tray the wrong way, and her food falls out on the carpet, but she picks it back up anyways, and she heads back up to the top bedroom. And apparently her mom is the person who takes care of the library by the looks of it, because she wakes her up in the bed asleep, and she's got Walkman headphones on, and she's like, "Look, I brought you a dinner, breakfast, late lunch, something." And we actually find out it's her Aunt Claire, and then her name is Jenny, and we find out Jenny has syrup dripping all the way down her leg, and there's a whole trail of syrup all the way, and she's in this weird pajama outfit. And actually we just noticed it looks like she's in the washer now, and her headphones actually have a long neck, pink long neck on the side. I'm sure they're just some generic headphones, but it's kind of cute. Anyways, while the aunt's in bed, she sees a cockroach start to climb up on her, and she gets all freaked out by it, which I understand. Well, I'm assuming I wouldn't seeing a cockroach climbing on my bed either. And then she's also got a cast on her foot, and she starts smacking at the cast because she sees cockroaches all over, and then she must stub her toe, and she's yelling for Jenny, but Jenny can't hear her at all because she's got her headphones on fucking full blast. And then next thing we see the aunt in the bed, and she's pretty much just covered in cockroaches, and blood's gushing out of her cast because they're eating her toes. This movie's got trauma vibes, but I like a trauma movies more than I like this movie. And next thing you know, we see the aunt with her screaming with her mouth open, and just cockroaches climbing out or climbing in. I can't really tell by the looks of it. Then we see Hubbard just going over some tests with the cockroaches, and apparently there was some eggs that actually hatched through taking the gas. So she's all excited. She's like, "Oh, they survived the gas as well. Even better now." Then we see the mayor calling back at Hauser, the guy in charge of Intech, and saying how it's going to be 5 a.m. to get everyone out. And then he's like, "The line's starting to go," as we see cockroaches eating the power lines. And then they're trying to go over this plan about using the lighthouse and the beam to spray or not to spray, and their plan just sounds stupid. Then we cut into the diner where the girl's trying to do some stuff. I'm not sure what she's trying to do, but it's infested with cockroaches, so she's putting food in the microwave with the cockroaches, turning it on, and there's this weird music playing, and we see the cockroaches exploding, and then she's pouring coffee on them just to try and kill them. And it's just a weird scene, and it's kind of a comedy scene for the movie, and then she's hitting them with the spatula, putting them in the blenders, putting them in the deep fryer, putting them in the toaster, doing anything to try and get rid of them. Then we see the mayor talking to Hubbard about the plan, and the Hubbard's just pretty much just throwing the plan off, being like, it's not going to work. They're immune to the spray. And then he's like, "Okay, just light the lighthouse light then, and they won't spray because it's not going to do us any good. It's just going to end up killing the people in the town and not the issue at hand." Then we see Homer back at his home making some bug spray contraption, and then something's leaking on the floor. I'm not sure if that's going to come in handy later on. Then he throws a cigarette down, and of course his whole fucking house goes up because I wasn't paying attention to what was leaking. And then we see our second explosion in the movie. I didn't talk about the first explosion because it's this guy that picked up a dead body, and the cockroach started attacking him, and then he drove his truck off the bridge. There, I talked about it now. Big whoop. Woohoo. Then we see the mayor being like, Hubbard, where's the beam? Where's the beam? Why is it not going on? And then Elizabeth comes in and is like, what's going on with this island? And he's like, just go up and pack, honey. We're going to get off the island, okay? Because some bad things are going to happen. And we better get off the island now before the bad things happen. Richard goes to check on his dispatcher, Millie. And when he gets there, all he sees is a bloody hand and her body hunched over. We don't see how she dies. But we know she dies by cockroaches, of course. And then he goes to check on the diner where he hears a fan going but doesn't see the waitress at all, Lillian. And he's just looking around. He sees a bunch of dead cockroaches all over the place. And he's a little bit confused. And then he turns off the blender because that wasn't making the sound. I thought it was an industrial fan or a stove vent, but whatever. And he's looking around for Lillian, and then he goes into the walk-in freezer, and that's when he finds her in there, which is probably a safe spot to go because the cockroaches would freeze. And he starts hugging her, and just sleep in peace. And he's like, I'm sorry, baby. Like, she's actually dead. That's when we then see the freezer door starting to close, and then we see Homer coming into the scene, and you can clearly tell he went for explosion because he's got black smut all over his face and all over his body. It's like, everyone's dead, man. What are we doing? And then that's when Hubbard starts trying to get a hold of the mayor, Elias. He's like, there's a malfunction in the lighthouse beam. It actually won't turn on, so therefore they're going to spray, and there's nothing that we can do to actually, stop this from happening because the lighthouse beam needs to be on to not have them spray the island. And that's when the mayor's like, oh, I was just trying to do something good for the island. I wasn't trying to do anything bad to hurt them. I was just trying to make a roach that ate other otras. That way it would, cut down on the population and cut down the bugs and insects and whatnot and help the island grow faster and grow better. And Hubbard's telling Richard and Homer the same thing. And Homer's like, so are you telling me they're getting intelligent? And he's like, or is there a nest with a queen in it? So if we kill the queen, we kill the cockroaches and we'll get this issue solved. So then Homer's like, so let me get this right. Insect's going to spray the island in a few hours. And if they spray the island, the bugs are going to die and we're going to die. So we need to do something to get this issue solved. But if the lighthouse is lit, then they won't spray. Correct. And of course, in the mayor's house, the power goes out. So he goes in the basement to turn on the emergency power. And he opens up the breaker. And he sees a bunch of cockroaches in it. So he runs back upstairs. And he's like, they're here, honey. Let's try to barricade the door. And let's load our shotgun to shoot the cockroaches. The shotgun to use the cockroach, shoot the cockroaches, use the cockroaches. And then the mayor calls for Hubbard to get a hold of the sheriff because he knows that the sheriff's with her. And he's like, just get some CO2 fire extinguishers and freeze the roaches. That's your best shot. So put down the shotgun because it's not going to do you any good. At this point, we just see him using the fire extinguisher to spray some cockroaches that are on the curtains. But then we see pretty much the house just filling up with cockroaches. And then the sheriff's like, I'm going to go see if I can get a hold of Beth. And that's when Hubbard's like, I was just talking to the mayor actually. And he says they're all fine. They're just fine there. And there's no cockroaches. So not to worry about. We just got to try and get this lighthouse lit up. Also, while they're in this lighthouse, one of the things Hubbard was working on, there's like a container down below that looks like it has like a giant nest inside of it. Or it's a giant egg, one of the two. But then we see it start to crack open and like white goo starting to come out of it. We see the mayor trying to hold this door shut as the cockroaches are trying to come out of it. He's pretty much just telling his daughter to get out. And he, for some reason, goes into the washroom. That's the door he was trying to hold shut. And he closes the door behind him for some reason. Like that's going to just make all the cockroaches go after him. And then she starts screaming, Dad. And it's like, why did you go in the one smallest room with the cockroaches when the whole house is fucking full of cockroaches? And you killing yourself isn't going to do anything. But then, she just grabs the fire extinguisher and starts to walk off. She then goes into this one room and shuts the door behind her that has the biggest fucking gap in the floor I've ever seen. It's got like an inch gap between the floor and the bottom of the door. Hubbard's at the bottom of the lighthouse at this point in time. And they hear her screaming a little bit and we hear glass breaking. And then they slowly make their way downstairs to her and she's just staring at something that just pretty much hatched out of this display case test tube area that she pretty much had set up. While they're looking around all confused and stuff, we still hear a cat meowing. And then this thing starts jumping around at them and they have to duck all over the place for it. And then we hear it purring and it's now on the table and it's this dead cockroach creature thing. I don't know what the fuck it's supposed to be. And Hubbard's all happy. He's like, oh, it's amazing. It's a hybrid of a hybrid of a hybrid. Whatever they ingest, they become. So it's a cat cockroach. Oh my god, is this movie over yet? I hate this. Sorry, I'm being a little forward with it. It's at this point Richard's like, Homer, go upstairs and get the gun. I'll keep the cat cockroach occupied. Just go get the shotgun. And then the cat kind of jumps on him, and we can clearly tell it's just a puppet. And then Hubbard finally sprays the cat, and the cat just, pretty much jumps away. And now we just see Richard standing up with like a bloody face. He's got like cat cockroach scratches over his face. And this cat apparently is the fastest thing ever because it just keeps zooming around the room. Like Homer's coming down with the gun, and he's trying to be stealthy, and he goes to step on like this stand, this like cupboard stand, and it knocks over and falls on top of the cat cockroach thing, and then the green slime goes all over the place. He's like, no bug to worry about at all, eh guys? Even though he clearly did that by accident, he didn't actually mean to do that. He was trying to get closer, I think, to take a shot at the cat cockroach thing. And then we finally see that Homer finally gets the lighthouse lit up, and the light's actually working. He's like, finally, I finally did something right. Well, yeah, I did something right again too, so that's good. And then we cut back to the mayor's house. We see Elizabeth finally making her way out of that room with the fire extinguisher still in hand, and she's walking around the home, but we don't see any cockroaches at all anywhere. We don't hear a sound, we don't see them at all, and she's kind of just walking around scared. As to see the place a little bit messed up, but that's them doing what they did. And they lit the fireplace at one point, but the fireplace is gone out now. And then she hears Richard on the CB radio calling in for them, and then she finally goes over to that room, calls back, but it doesn't sound like it's actually going through at first. But then he's like, oh, Beth, is that you? And then the office door opens up, and then we see feet starting to shuffle in. And Elizabeth's like, my dad's dead. But we can obviously tell that the feet that were shuffling was actually her dad starting to come into the room. But we assume he's infested by a cockroach now, just like the cat would be. Because all the dad does is reach out for a hug, essentially. And she goes to hug him, but his back is completely covered in blood. And once she's done hugging him, she's like, oh my god, that's not good. And then we see the chest of his sweater starting to rip open. And his chest slowly starts to open up, as there's like a cockroach breaking through his chest, and then his feet start to like break as well. It looks like the bones coming out of the whole foot. I don't know what the hell is going on. And then next thing you know, we see like a cockroach antenna coming out of his mouth, and his eyeball falls out, and his weird cockroach foot steps on his eyeball, and it's weird. It's stupid. Because why didn't this happen to any of the other people that got ate by a cockroach? And then we see Elizabeth's like face being this cockroach monster human hybrid that used to be her father, and she loads up the shotgun, shoots it once, blows off one of its arms, and then shoots it in the stomach again, but it's still starting to come at her. Slow and steady, of course, because it's an old man cockroach thing. And she grabs the last shell, puts it in the gun, and next thing you know, the creature puts its mouth pretty much on the gun, and she blows its head off just as Richard comes in the room like, are you okay? Like, yeah, I'm fine now, don't worry about it. And then by the time Richard gets Elizabeth out of the house, Homer's like, Sheriff, we got an issue. The lighthouse went out again, so that's gonna be an issue, right? Richard puts Elizabeth in his truck, and then Hubbard steals the truck. He's like, she's got to show me where the cave is. But apparently Richard wants to be the one to go in the cave, but he's like, no, don't worry about it. Let's take Elizabeth in the cave because she's already seen where the nest is, so we can get there quicker and get the issue solved. Then we see Richard and Homer stealing must be the mayor's car, and they're heading towards the cave system as well. And that's when we see the car is slowly starting to cover up with cockroaches, and for some reason the back window won't go up, and a cockroach is slowly trying to get inside. But then next thing you know, he looks down at his feet, and we see cockroaches all over the floorboard of the car. We then see Hubbard and Elizabeth inside the cave system, and they're getting ready to set up some bombs to blow up the nest. And then Elizabeth's like, they were right here, I don't know where they went, I don't know what happened. And then we hear this giant cockroach growl in the darkness of the cave. Then they stop the car near the cave system, and all the roaches start to leave the car. And Richard's like, what's going on, Homer? He's like, well, sometimes a queen, when they call or does a certain signal, all the workers will come towards the queen. And then he's like, they must be going to the queen because they think something evil is going to happen. Then we cut back inside the cave system where the nest is supposed to be, and we see a bunch of sticks of dynamite all set up, and she's setting a timer for 5 minutes to make the whole thing go up. And then as soon as the timer's going, she's like, Hubbard, where are you? I've already set the bomb to go off. Maybe I should have waited to start it, but oh well. And we just see Hubbard. She then found the nest, and she's looking at what looked to be ball sacks, but apparently it's the nest sacks. And she's taking samples of the sack, and that's when this human-sized cockroach creature pops out of nowhere, and she's just staring at it, being like, interesting. As it's the queen cockroach, because it's got like 3 different heads or skulls built into its head, and then it looks like it's supposed to be walking towards her, but it's just hovering walking towards her because apparently they couldn't get enough money for the special effects for this movie to make it look interesting. But then we see Hubbard being grabbed by the cockroach because it's got a bunch of human arms, more than two. I'm not sure. I can't make anything out of this copy. But then we just see Hubbard's arm get ripped off like it's nothing, because apparently cockroaches have that much strength just to rip someone's arm off. But then we see another shot of this cockroach human monster, and now it looks like it's got 6 heads all formed in together to like make one giant head. And then like there's the main head that has like a skull that has the pinchers coming out of it. It's just fucking weird. And then slowly off in the distance, we slowly start to hear a helicopter coming into scene. And then like Richard digs his way into like the cave system from one entrance that he has or remembers, and it's just right where the nest is. So he's then like, Elizabeth, come this way. We'll get out. And then we cut and see the timer, and the timer's got like 6 seconds left on it as Elizabeth is slowly making her way out of this little pathway tunnel. And then we see a shot of the creature as then the bomb goes off and the whole tunnel system explodes up into flames. And then Homer hits the box with the light switch, or the lighthouse switch, and kills the cockroach, and then it stops this flickering in the switch. So he turns the switch back on, and now the light on the lighthouse is now back on just in time so that the helicopter doesn't pretty much try and napalm the whole island. Even though I'm pretty sure everyone else on the island's already dead, other than the 3 of them, so I'm not sure what the big fucking point of it is anyways. Then we see Richard and Elizabeth hugging outside as the sunset's coming up, and then we see a shot of a cockroach, and that's how the fucking movie ends. So like, I feel like it's probably pretty obvious about this movie for me and how I felt about it. I didn't care about it at all, to be honest with you guys. I'm gonna be blunt about that. Like at the end, the cockroach human hybrid effects and whatnot, and makeup, it looks kind of cool, but it's not great by any means. And the all-around story just seems like, Jaws ripoff mixed with some alien on the side. Not that great. On the Rotten scale, I'm going to give it a 2 out of 10, and that's mainly just for the cockroach special effects. And that boring, and I'm never probably going to watch this movie ever again. But I'm assuming there's probably more movies in this series. I wouldn't be surprised if there's at least a part 2 somewhere along the lines. I'm not going to look it up because I don't really care. Which brings us to our movie we're going to pick for next week. I'm going to pick a movie that I like a lot. It's got a good cast in it, and it's not a horror movie, so hopefully you guys will understand. It's an action thriller for 1 hour and 28 minutes from 1998, PG-13 movie. It's also on Tubi, and I don't remember it being on Tubi before, but it's also in the Leaving Soon section, so I'm not sure what the hell's going on there. But it's starring Patrick Swayze, and it's called Black Dog. It's a trucker movie. I enjoy trucker movies. I don't know why, I just think they're fun. But yeah, it's got Patrick Swayze, and it's got Randy Travis, I believe, in it, and Meatloaf. I think Randy Travis. Is it Randy Travis? I don't know. I could be wrong on that one. Yeah, it's Randy Travis. I was almost going to get him mixed up with Jerry Reed from Smokey and the Bandit. That's probably why I like transport trucker movies that much. Smokey and the Bandit was one of my all-time favorites growing up as a kid. So I thought that was a really great movie. And it still is. The third one, I think, isn't that great. I think there's only 3 of them. I could be wrong. Anyways, back on the movie that we're watching is Black Dog. Like I said, 1998, 1 hour 28 minutes, PG-13. I'm getting really tired. It's almost midnight, and I gotta work in the morning. But yeah, it's an ex-convict truck driver makes one last no questions asked trip, only to discover his rig is stocked with assault weapons. But yeah, it should be a fun one. I know it's gonna be a fun one because I watched this movie a lot. I've watched it already once, I think, this year, to be honest with you. So we're gonna watch it again, and then yeah, we'll go from there. So until next time, I hope you guys will check out the links below. Mainly go check out the outro band. I am tired of mixing up my words. But yeah, go check out the outro band, Blood Opera, Toronto-based horror band. All their links will be down below. You can find them on SoundCloud, Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, Spotify, all the fun things. I'm sure they're probably on Threads too. I'm not sure on that one, but they probably are. And then also check out the Etsy shop related to them. So go check them out. You can get some cool horror masks and whatnot, all handcrafted stuff, pretty cool shit. Get some t-shirts and whatnot, all cool stuff. And then also check out all my links below. Obviously the main thing that we're pushing is that YouTube channel with the weekly video game video coming out every Wednesday. We got almost daily shorts for the most part, and then we have other videos, old episodes of the podcast and whatnot coming up as well. Some drawing videos, some time-lapse videos, and all other fun stuff. Go check it out at Typhonstein. Follow me on all other social medias, YouTube being the main things, Spotify, not Spotify, why did I say Spotify? Instagram, X, I almost said Twitter, but it's called X. Check me out on Threads, TikTok. I think that's the main things to check out, right, guys? Twitter's not the thing anymore. Threads, I already said it. Yeah, I'm
Tired. I'm going to bed now, so I'll talk to you guys all later. Peace.